when we first started. Kind of pull down a little bit. Get myself organized here. I love this song because it talks about waiting on the world to change. But he also talks about what is it that we can do to help that happen. So when we're dealing with conflict resolution, do we want to get better? Or do we really want to get better? Or do we want to remain better? We have a choice. So just to go over the norms of the housekeeping real quick, the chat is going to be monitored by our great Debbie DeShano. She will be, trying to answer your questions as they come along, give you any information, and then she'll also be dumping a post-training evaluation in the chat at the end. Be sure to complete that. I had some issues with my last one from stress management. This one should be okay. I had some permissions that was on the other one that I didn't realize. So hopefully it's open to where no matter what email you're on, you should be able to complete that. Please, please, please complete it. It helps me to figure out what it is that I need to do better. It also helps to see what I'm doing well. And then it gives my boss in the district a better understanding as to if this training is valuable, if it is not, and if we should be able to keep this thing going. Stay muted unless asked, just because, again, I only have an hour. I've taken up a lot of that. I apologize, but I only have so much time. So to avoid going down rabbit holes or hearing someone else's conversation, if you could stay muted. And again, we talked about the post-training evaluation. By the time this is over, you should be able to understand conflict. Know that there is a difference between the good and the bad. There is good conflict. Conflict is good. Have you ever thought about it that way? Identify the cause of conflict, recognize conflict triggers, your triggers when it comes to conflict, and then determine ways to resolve conflict. Again, this is not going to be necessarily a deep dive, but what I'm going to do in all the trainings that are 1 hour long is to give you more tools for your toolbox, for your tool belt, to be able to handle situations differently or better. So the definition, according to Indeed, conflict is a disagreement or argument that can arise in various circumstances and settings, including in the workplace. And for some people, especially in the workplace. This is how we typically think about conflict, a disagreement or an argument. But did you know that conflict is actually healthy and normal? It's a normal part of healthy relationships. I'm going to park on relationships just for a second, because when we think about relationships, that word, a lot of times we identify relationships and we say relationships, that's intimate. Oh, you're talking about my significant other or my kids. But when you're talking about relationships, that's a broad term. It includes anyone that you have to have a connection with. You have a relationship with your students. You have a relationship with your boss. You have a relationship with your coworkers. You have a relationship with, the teller at the store. Anytime there is a connection, that is a relationship. There are business relationships, workplace relationships. So when I say it's a normal part of a healthy relationship, don't segregate that to just one area of your life. That is all parts of your life. Any one that you would be in connection with is a relationship. So conflicts is a normal part of that, and it's healthy. And so it's important to understand how to navigate and resolve them. So it's important to know how to get through them and also to get in front of them, there being conflict. So when confronting conflict, how do you typically approach it? Typically, if you hear the word conflict and automatically put it in the negative box, you may not. You may avoid it for several reasons. You may avoid it because there's a fear. If I say something, if I confront this thing, what can happen? Or I've confronted fear in the past, so I'm not going to do that again because of what happened in the past. Do we avoid it because it's an unsafe space? Sometimes you can't hit conflict dead on because it right now may not be the time. Do you avoid it because you just need to be right? So, if I'm not going to say anything because they're just going to disagree with me, and I know I'm right, so I'm just not going to say anything. I'm going to check out. I'm done. Or do you avoid because you have unhealthy boundaries? And the unhealthy boundaries are within yourself, right? So if I feel that I'm always taken advantage of, I'm not going to approach this conflict because I don't want anyone to take advantage of me, my accommodating nature. Or I know that if someone disagrees with me, I'm taking off. I'm going ziggity boom. And so I'm not even going to approach it. I'm going to avoid it because I don't want to go there. Or do you typically address it because you know that there's a benefit attached to resolving a conflict? If you have an issue with someone, and it doesn't have to be a negative or a bad issue, it's just, hey, let's talk about this thing. And at the end of it, there's a benefit. Maybe a relationship was built, maybe trust was built. You typically address it because you understand, hey, this is a safe space. I know that I could go talk to Rika. So I'm having this issue with Rika. So I'm going to go ahead and have this conversation with her because I know that she's not going to bite my head off. Do you address it because you're goal driven? Like, I really want to make sure that this gets done. This is the goal. This is the big picture. So it needs to be addressed. Or do you have healthy boundaries? You know yourself. Hey, I know that I can go and talk to so-and-so. I can go talk to Debbie because I know that I'm not going to allow her to take advantage of me. I'm comfortable and confident enough in who I am and what I have to bring to the table or to this conversation. So I know that that's not going to happen. And I know myself enough that I'm not going to blow up if she doesn't say what I want her to say. So I have healthy boundaries. So think about how you typically approach conflict and some of the reasons why you may address or avoid a conflict. Because that's going to help you determine if you're going to get better or remain bitter. So in order to get through it or in front of it, you have to know your own conflict style. So I'm going to play this video because this video, she's going to break down the different conflict styles. And what I love about it is she gives you the either or, the good and the bad, right? Because just like I said in stress management, if there's an action, there's a reaction. If there's a good, there's a bad. There's a positive, there's a negative. So there's always that choice, right? There's always, it could be good, but if you take good too far, it can turn bad, right? So let's watch this video.
Hi. What do you do when you're feeling angry or upset with another person? Do you go quiet and try to avoid an argument? Do you huff, puff, slam doors, shout or insult others? Do you apologize to make peace even if you're not in the wrong? Or do you speak calmly and try to find a compromise? Everyone is different, and what we usually do may not always work. So, one thing that can be really helpful with managing our relationships with friends and family is to work out what our conflict style is. I like to remember the different conflict styles as animals. So, let's have a look and see which style we can relate to. Here's the accommodating bear. This is cooperating to a high degree, sometimes at the expense of your own goals and objectives. The accommodating bear might say, I don't care that much, have it your way, or I give in. This conflict style can be effective when the other party is the expert or has a better solution, or if you really want to maintain a future relationship. However, if this happens too often, you may find yourself feeling resentful that you are unable to give your opinion or be heard. The avoiding turtle. This is when you simply avoid the issue. The avoiding turtle may say, I'd just rather not deal with this right now. Avoiding would be positive for dangerous situations. It allows you to step back and cool down. And not so positive if you don't give your opinion or speak up when it's something that really matters to you. Avoiding is not a good long-term strategy. You aren't helping the other party reach their goals, and you aren't assertively pursuing your own. Next, the collaborating owl. This is where you pair up with the other party to achieve both of your goals, breaking free of the win-lose idea and seeking the win-win. The collaborating owl may say, 2 heads are better than 1. This can mean reframing the challenge and creating a space for everybody's ideas. The downside is that it requires a high degree of trust, time, and effort from everyone involved to ensure that everyone is happy enough. Here's the competing shark. This is the win-lose approach. The competing shark may say, I take charge, and act in a very assertive way to achieve your goals. This approach may be helpful when you need quick, decisive action, but can be unhelpful in other situations as sharks aren't too fussed about relationships. So being a shark too often may lead to losing friends. Lastly is the compromising fox. This is the lose-lose scenario where neither party really achieves what they want. The competing fox may say, let's meet halfway, or let's split the difference. This may be appropriate for scenarios where you need a temporary solution or where both sides have equally important goals. A negative is that it can be time-consuming if both parties do not want to give something up. So, which conflict style do you most relate to? Do you recognise yourself in any of them? What about your friends and family? What are their go-to conflict styles? It's really important to remember that no one style is necessarily better than the other. As we saw, there's pros and cons to each one. No one style is fixed either. So next time you're in a conflict, how about practicing different approaches to see if you can get a better outcome?
Awesome. So again, there are conflict styles. Did we know that there were actual styles to handling conflict? You know, a lot of times I just think that I just do it this way, but they actually have some names for those conflict styles. And again, what I loved about this video was the fact that it, you know, anyone who feels that they are accommodating, hey, that's the best one to have. I'm not accommodating, so you know, maybe I don't do it right. Maybe I'm an avoider. But sometimes there's a place to avoid. Sometimes being accommodating may not be the right thing to do in the situation. So what I'm going to have you do is, for my folks who were in stress management, we're going to annotate. Let's get involved. For those who cannot access their menu bar or participate in this, you are more than welcome to use the chat. Okay, so I want you to mark what your, and let me make sure that this is, oh, I got to enable it, I guess. Okay, all right, so go up to the top of your screen if you are on a computer or device where you can participate, and you'll see Rika's screen sharing. And next to that, I think it's view options. Click down on that menu. You'll see a word called annotate. And I think I disabled it. Okay. Annotate. When you click on annotate, ANNOTATE, another menu item will drop down. You'll go over to about 5 over. From the left, you'll see stamp. Another drop down will come. Then I want you to pick a heart, star, check, X, whatever, question mark, and mark what is your typical conflict style. And again, there's not one that is better than the other. And you're not going to use one all the time. No one has just one. I'm always accommodating, because sometimes you avoid, sometimes you collaborate, sometimes you compete. And that's a good thing. Sometimes we compromise. That is a good thing. I love the heart on competing, because competing is a good conflict style. Because remember, conflict is not an all the way negative thing. Great things come out of conflict. Innovation comes out of conflict. New rules, changed rules come out of conflict. Like I said earlier, businessmen, they may not like each other, but they understand the greater good. And so great business deals come out of conflict. So it's not a bad thing. So when we hear conflict from this day forward, we're going to know that we have options. This could be good conflict, or it could be negative. But now that I know the difference, now I'm armed. Now I have options. As long as I think that it's all negative, the only option I have is protection mode. But now that I know that, you know what, this conflict is not a bad conflict. The intention of it is not to be bad. So maybe I can go ahead and engage in this conflict, and have a little bit of competition, or, it's not, I don't feel like I'm losing anything, so I can accommodate. I can compromise. Awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love the annotate, because it gets everyone involved, and you can go ahead and identify for yourself where you fall. So we don't have to make assumptions. Again, there's options. So I don't have to assume, if I'm facing a conflict or a disagreement or an argument, I don't have to assume that it's automatically negative. I don't have to assume that it's automatically a person. I don't automatically have to assume it's everyone else. It may be me. I may be the contributing factor to the conflict if it turns negative. Because my perception of conflict is, oh, you're disagreeing with me, then, you're coming for me, so I have to defend myself. And so now my pride kicks in, and now I have to, come back in a way that is not going to be compromising or accommodating. But sometimes the person that we are pretty much accusing of being in conflict with, it may be a process. It may be a process that that's causing the conflict. A lot of times when we have a boss staff situation, leader follower situation, we automatically say, I can't get along with my boss. My boss is always, there's this conflict, there's this thing between me and my boss, and it may not be the boss. The boss may be following a process. So your issue isn't with the boss, is with the process. The issue may not be with the parents that you have to deal with. The issue may be the circumstances that surrounding either the parent or the situation. The issue may not be the coworker. It could be that there was some miscommunication either on my part or theirs. So we assume that it's a problem when maybe it's not a problem. Maybe the conflict is not a negative conflict. Maybe it's something that we just need to talk about. I had a situation where a coworker, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but so in my former job, there was a situation where the receiver, the person who does procurement, receives the inventory, and then we have finance. They work supposedly, kind of interconnected with each other. Well, I'm having a conversation with the receiver, and he's talking about his frustration and, he's stressed and, this conflict that he's having because his paperwork is piling up. And the paperwork is piling up, and it only does that at like a certain time of the month where the system is closed and he can't input his information. And it's frustrating him. And so he has this, and it's because of that finance guy. So he named it. So there's this conflict. So there's a whole nother time I'm talking to the finance guy, and in the middle of the conversation, I asked, like, hey, is there a way that that information can be inputted without it being closed? And then I explained, hey, because the receiver's paperwork is piling up, it's causing a lot of stress, And so he said, yeah, they can do it this way, blah, blah, blah. I said, hey, can you go have a conversation with him and you guys can look at your systems and see what may be the issue? Sure. But it's, like, hey, I really felt like there may be something going on with the guy, but I didn't know what it was. I'm like, hey, just have a conversation with them, see if there's anything you guys can do. They met, they married their systems. Receiver is able to put in his information without his paperwork getting piled up. Benefits finance guy because once he's ready for that information, it's already there. He doesn't have to wait for it to come in. So stress levels are reduced. They talk, they understand each other. They understand why they have to do whatever. And they're good. But at one point, there was this tension. Why? Because to come to find out, that process wasn't created by the finance guy. It was created by the person before the finance guy. He just kept it going because he thought that was the rule. So there was the assumption that there was an issue with a person, but it was actually a process. So I don't know, for the sake of time, I think I'm going to bypass this activity because it may cause way more confusion, but you can go ahead and put in the chat. Let's just go ahead and use the chat feature for this one, just because, again, I don't want to add any more frustration to this. But this activity is a Jamboard activity. Debbie, did you put it in the link in the system already?
No, ma'am.
Okay, yeah, we're going to go ahead and bypass this one just because, again, for the sake of time, we'll just use the chat. And in that, I want you to put your position, so your role here at CCS. If you're an IA, a secretary, a cook, whatever your role is. And then I want you to complete the sentence that you see at the top here. So conflict in my role stems from blank, who or what, because of who or what, right? So an example would be, I'm a bus driver and conflict in my role stems from irate parents because their students are dropped off late. All right, so there's a conflict there. I have a conflict with irate parents because the students are dropped off late. And Deb, if you see some coming in, if you want to pop off and have anyone identify, since we're not doing the activity.
So a common message that we see, frustration because of lack of communication.
Hey, how about that one?
And then to rhyme with communication, we got can be irritate or can be have conflict with staff because of procrastination and how that will probably affect other people's work.
That's
And
amazing. That's really good. I wish I had more than an hour, and I wish I didn't eat up half of my hour locked out. But at some point, we'll be doing trainings where we can get a little bit more in depth and maybe role play or actually talk about strategies to get through specific conflicts or specific issues. I can't wait to get to that. My goal is to be able to do some in-person trainings as well, where maybe I can get to your buildings and do some in-person trainings that maybe can last a little bit longer, or it'll be a smaller group and it can be a focused training.
please know that we will capture all of these questions, but some other good ones that came out for you is conflict in their role, because there are so many duties and no time for even a lunch break.
Time is
Time.
one of them. That's one of them.
Irate parents, because home rules are not the same as school rules. Different house, different rules. Conflict with students, because they like to bicker back and forth. And parents getting miscommunication, and the secretary gets stuck in the middle of that.
Which causes stress and conflict. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you all for sharing. I took some notes because that's going to help me as I go forward with creating trainings. I can know, like I said, the focused trainings, what we can kind of concentrate on in those trainings, giving you the tools to be able to diffuse some of these situations, de-escalate some of the situation, engage in, motivate, help to change the perspective of the person that you're talking to. You can't change people, but you can give options. And there's a way that you can handle yourself that keeps you in control and not cause you to give up your control and take whatever is coming towards you. So thank you all for sharing those in the chat. Thank you, Debbie.
Hi, Davis. Good afternoon.
Oh, make sure
Hello?
you're on mute. Also, in here, just like I said, I jotted down those notes. Go ahead in the chat and name some future trainings that you would like to have, throughout the year. The big part of conflict resolution is not that we all get along. Can we all just get along? It's not just about getting along. It's about understanding. We can all get along, but how real is that? Right? How real is it to just get along? If I don't understand what you're going through, I don't understand what you're trying to communicate, I don't understand my conflict style. If I don't understand my conflict style, sometimes it'll make me avoid having to participate or engage in the conflict. I don't understand your point of view. I need to try to understand your point of view. If I can understand where you're coming from or what you're trying to say, then that will help me to be able to, see if we're even on the same page. Sometimes people are saying the exact same thing. They're just using different words and phrases. They're using different tones, but they can't even hear that they're saying the same thing. What's at stake? If I understand what's at stake, if I continue with this conflict, and I'm talking in a negative, I'm not talking about the good conflict. Good conflict the innovation, the change that's going to come out of it. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when it goes a little that step further into now it's a problem. What's at stake if we don't resolve this? Big picture, does everything stop? Are, other people going to be affected by this? Does the program end? Does it end before it starts? Does the change that needs to happen never happen? And understanding the root cause of the conflict. A lot of times we argue about the symptom, right? If I said my stomach hurts, okay, so now I go and take stomach medicine, but I don't realize that the root cause of my stomach hurting doesn't have anything to do with the medicine that I took. I can cause more damage if I just treat the symptom and never get to the root of the conflict, the root of the problem. So we have to understand that there's more to resolving conflict than I'm right, you're wrong, or do it this way and that's it, that settles it. There's a lot more to it. There's an understanding that has to be attached to resolving that conflict. Yeah. We have to understand the why. If we really want to settle that conflict, we really want to find a solution, we have to understand why. Understand, why is this a conflict? Is this a conflict because everything with me is a conflict? Or I view everything as a conflict? Or I view every conflict as negative? Why is this a conflict? And why can't it be resolved? Is it because you won't give me what I want? Or is it because I won't give you what you want? Or is it because we can't compromise? Or is it because I feel like I'm going to lose something if this is resolved? Why can't this conflict be resolved? Why am I better because it is resolved? Am I better because I got my way? Am I better because, you know what, at the end of the day, I did something, I contributed to something good. And I'm better for it, and the people around me are going to be better for it. Or I may still feel a little bit slighted, but for the greater good, because more people will benefit from it, it's a good thing, and I'm better for it because I was a part of that decision. Why am I bitter? Am I bitter that it's not resolved because I'm not getting my way, because I don't like the person, because I don't like the system? Why am I bitter? And the why is self-reflective. The questions that we should be asking ourselves, if we're really looking to resolve an issue, we need to ask ourselves some questions to see where we are in the conflict. Once we see where we are, where we stand, now we are in position to be able to see everything, and now we can move. Conflict resolution is chess, it's not checkers. Anyone who plays checkers knows that as soon as someone comes in front of you, you jump them or you move away from them. But in chess, you sit in a position and you see all of your options. You see everything that you can do, no matter what position you're playing. And you're positioning yourself to win, not to just get to the end to be king, but you're positioning yourself to win and to help your team win. So you have to read the room. What's the visual communication that's going on around you? When we think of communication, a lot of times we're thinking of verbal or nonverbal, written or listening. Listening is the big one. But what about visual communication? Everything around us is speaking to us. Right now we're in fall, so the trees are speaking to us. The trees are saying it's fall. I'm going away for a little bit. I'll be back. Everything is speaking to us. The room speaks to us. What's going on in the room in the middle of conflict? Are there other people that's getting caught up in this conflict? If it's just you and another person, is it you know, can you see what they're going through visually? Did you see their jaws clench? Did you see them change their position or tighten up? What's going on? Are you paying attention? Because if you want to get in front of conflict, there's a way, if you can see things coming, that you can put yourself in a position to where you can maybe calm the situation. If you're paying attention. Are you paying attention to yourself? Maybe your jaws are clenching and you feel your heart pumping. How can you get in front of it? Okay, you know what? I feel myself going there. Let me, you know, kind of back off a little bit. Because there's always that opportunity right in the middle. There's that opportunity to make a choice. And we sometimes let that close and we fall on one side or the other. Like there's only either or. It's not true. In most cases, there's both and. And in a lot of cases, there's both and. There's so many choices that's out there. And if we put the tools in our tool belt, in our toolbox, then we can, you know, say, hey, well, you know what, maybe that one, I'll try this one. Oh, that didn't work. I can try this one. Oh, you know what, that didn't work here. Maybe I'll do this one. Oh, maybe a little bit of both of these. But if we only approach things one way, if we only approach conflict one way, then we may find ourselves in that insanity, doing the same thing, expecting different results. Doesn't work. So holding ourselves accountable in the midst of conflict. Being aware of our words, what we say, where our words are powerful. They can soothe and they can cut, sometimes at the same time. So when we're aware of our word choices in the middle of conflict, our energy, what's going on inside of me. I can feel myself when I'm rising up, like I'm about to blow, or my energy kind of deflates, like I'm defeated. Being aware that I have choices. It may be both and. Being aware of my conflict style. I typically, you know, approach it in, you know, in an accommodating way, but sometimes I have to compete. Sometimes I have to go ahead and say, you know what, I understand what you're saying, but, you know, hey, here's another perspective. And where can we agree? Understand my pain. What is going to happen to me if this works or if it doesn't work? What is my pain point? Why is this a conflict? And why is it stressing me out? And what can I do to help relieve that pain? And understand my impact, the collateral damage. If I keep pursuing this conflict, what or who is going to suffer? Is it going to be my work? Is it going to be my performance? Is it going to be my promotion? Is it going to be the students? Is it going to be my coworkers? What's the collateral damage that I contributed to by staying in this conflict, by not using tools to kind of, you know, get this conflict resolved? So I'm gonna have to make peace with myself first. Make peace with the fact that I may feel cheated because I didn't give my way. I'm gonna feel like I had to give something up. But in compromise, don't we? I don't always have to give something up, but sometimes it's just worth it. Like how important was it for me to win? How important was it for me to get my way? Sometimes I have to get out of my own way. Like, okay, Rika, Like, why am I tripping? You know, there's going to be other times, there's going to be other opportunities. Why do I feel like this thing right now is the most important thing, and I have to have this right now? Do I? And I have to manage my expectations. Like, everyone doesn't think like me. Everyone is not going to do what I want them to do. People have a right to make a choice. People have a right to disagree, just like I do. So if I go into a conversation knowing that, hey, they have a right to choose, I won't get as mad as if I walk into the conversation like, oh, they're going to listen to me. And I have to find the benefit in resolving this conflict. The benefit is that, you know, maybe instead of everyone walking around on eggshells because I walked into the room, the benefit is that the culture is calmer. Or the benefit is, hey, this conflict, you know, we banded together, and now we were able to help make change. We helped to change an outdated policy. We helped to get rid of a unrealistic rule. There's benefits in the conflict. I like what Nelson Mandela said, if you want to make peace with your enemy, you have to work with your enemy. Then he or she becomes your partner. Folks, I'm not working with my enemy. Well, at the moment, you're not enemies. You're working together to get something accomplished. So now you're not an enemy, you're partners. And our pride keeps us from doing that. Well, I'm not working with somebody I don't deal with. Well, billionaires do it all the time. They work with people that they don't necessarily rock with, they don't get with all the time. But if this company says, you know what, I want to merge with this company so that we can take over that company, you don't think they do it and they benefit from it? And we sit and we say, you know what, we got into an argument, so I'm no longer going to be cool with that person. Or every time I see that person, I'm looking at that person as a conflict. They're my enemy. Well, you know, when we were kids, we would fight on the playground and then get up, dust each other off, and then push each other on the swing. Not off the swing, on the swing, right? Or you have these debates in the boardroom, and you know, trying to get your point across, and it gets real heated, and then everyone finds this win, and next thing you know, or maybe not, you can't find a win, and now there's all this conflict, and I feel adamant about this, and I feel strongly about that, and then at 5 o'clock the horn blows, and we're all meeting for happy hour. There used to be a time when that happened. Now it's like, you know, as soon as, you know, someone disagrees or look at you funny, now you're enemies, and, you know, you're either on my side or that side. People have to choose now. So unrealistic. So unrealistic. Find the benefits. Make peace. Because the goal of resolving a conflict in a relationship, remember we talked about relationships is not just, you know, with your friends. Relationships have more to do with just the small circle that you have close to you. But it's not about victory or defeat. It's not about wins or losses. It's about coming to an understanding and letting go of the need to be right. Let it go. Vent to your good girlfriend or your good friend or someone safe. Let it all out, because sometimes that person that you vent to and you're getting it all out, they may say the same thing to you that the person that you're in conflict with, but you're not receiving it from the person that you're in conflict with, but you may receive it from that person that you're venting out to. In those situations, stay calm and start fresh. Hey, you know, let's do a reset. You know, there's 7 things that we are trying to get accomplished here, and 5 of those things we actually agree upon. and two of them we don't. But the focus is on these two things. So let's kind of fall back and see what we agree on and why we agree on those things. But let go of the need to be right. I mean, we all want to be right. We all feel like, you know, what we bring to the table is like, hey, second to none. But do I need to be right all the time? Do I need to be right? It's a difference between letting it go, and I mean the need to be right, and I'm done. So I don't want you to get it confused and say, you know what, I'm done because I'm letting it go. Don't mince. Those are not the same. You're letting go of the need to be right so that you can open up to hear other perspectives. So you learn all of this in here and you say, okay, Rika, yeah, that sounds all good. We're sitting in this safe space right now. I don't have any conflict with anyone. I don't even have conflict with myself right now. So I'm good. But what about when you're triggered? That's going to happen. You're going to walk out of here, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but you know, next month you're going to be far away from this training and some past experience is going to happen of conflict. Or you're going to see someone who reminds you of someone that you're in conflict with, or you're going to see the person you were in conflict with. What are you going to do with that? What if another perspective triggers you, or you know, a personality conflict or perception? What happens when those things happen? Are you going to fall back? Oh, you know what? I was in this training and it said, the girl, I can't remember her name, but she said, are you going to take that time to do that reflection? I always say, try to practice something, one of these on someone that you know. Say, hey, like, you know, accountability partner. Hey, Debbie, you know, I typically get upset when something happens. So I want to like kind of practice. I want to go over this muscle memory, right? Mind memory. I want to go over this. Because if I'm triggered, like I want to be able to use some of the techniques, or I want to remember something. But know that, again, this is safe space. You will be triggered. What will you do about that? You want to be effective when it comes to conflict resolution, not reactive, right? I am so tired, and I know you guys are too, and it's across all industries, all industries. This is not a CCS thing. It is not an education thing. It is not, it's a, I don't know, it's a people thing. When these, you know, something happens and there's this knee-jerk response. There's this knee-jerk resolve. We want to be effective. We want to get through the conflict that we're in now, and we want to be able to see what's coming and prepare for that, plan for that. Someone had said something about procrastination. You know, we can't procrastinate. Conflict is coming. It is a natural, a normal, and healthy thing in relationships. Again, it helps with innovation. It helps with change. It helps. But when it goes into something that is bigger than change and innovation, we need to know how to deal with that. So the first thing, we need to understand the other person's perspective. Now, in understanding it, it does not mean that you absolutely have to agree. A lot of times we mix our words. We mix it all together and say, yeah, you know, I don't want to understand someone's perspective because I don't agree with that. Or I don't agree with that, so I don't understand. Try to understand. You don't have to agree just because you understand it. It just puts you in a better position to be able to do something with the information that you receive. Stephen Covey says, seek first to understand, then to be understood. So try to understand where the person is coming from. If they're coming out of a bag, you know, find out what bag that is. Then you can deal with it. So an irate parent comes and is going off, and all you said was hi. And they came in already on 10. What bag are they coming out of? Is it that they are attacking you, or is it there's some things going on that maybe they didn't deal with, and it's compiled and is so heavy, and this is the only way they know how to let it out? Is that something that that parent, their environment, this is how they communicate, this is how they feel like they have to be heard? What bag are they coming out of? Once you understand what bag they're coming out of, then you can help them unpack that. You can keep yourself in a position to where you're calm, because you say, you know what, this could be a conflict. Oh, why are you coming for me? Like, why are you doing this to me? No. And you look and you say, you know what, all I said was hi. So I know she's still upset. I smiled. I know it was a real smile, and it was a real smile. So, okay, so this attack isn't against me. All right. So what is it that she is really asking for? She's hollering, whatever, upset. Okay. Oh, what she really needs is, I'll make something up, for her student to be ready at 2:15. It didn't sound like that when she came in, but when you step back and try to understand what it was that she was really trying to communicate. And I'm not saying that that's always the situation. I'm not saying that you're going to be perfect at it. You're going to come out of this training and you're going to master it. No, it's going to take practice. And there are some people that no matter how nice you are, they're going to keep coming. So there's no one size fit all answer or response. Now, in a more detailed training, a more focused training, then we can kind of go over scenarios and I can give you that. But that was just an example and an overview. So I want to say that for those who are like, that doesn't help me. It will in time. It will in time. Inch by inch is a cinch, but a mile will take a while. So give it time. It will. Mediate, engage in the conversation, in the conflict. You have to be a part of it. If you're a part of the conflict, you're in it. But when you shut down or if you go too far, get your boundaries. But you can't ignore it. You have to engage in that conflict. It doesn't resolve itself. It didn't start itself. And if you can't, maneuver through it and get a resolution between you and the party or parties or the situation, get a third person involved to mediate, to be the in-between. Again, sometimes people are saying the exact same thing, but they can't hear each other. They need someone else to kind of filter. Problem solve, identify a place to compromise. There's always a place to compromise, but will our pride let us? Can we agree? Or do I just want to be mad? If I don't get my way, I'll be mad. Because some people just want to be mad. No matter what you do, it's not going to matter. So I don't want you to walk out of this training and say, you know what, I can do this, or I've been doing this and I'm good. It's other people. Hey, who do we have control over? I only have control over me. So as long as I know that I did the right thing, and I did it the best that I could, the right way, and I have the right motive, I can't control how they move. I can't control how they're going to react and respond. I can control me. So I take responsibility. I own my own stuff. And the big one is forgive. And this one, I know people might log off because they're like, oh, you know what? You had me until you said forgive. I'm not forgiving somebody for coming after me or whatever the situation. I'm not doing that, Rika. You had me. I'm done. Let go of the need to be right. Forgive. If you don't forgive, that situation festers in you. It can be long gone, but you've carried it on. It could have been something that happened in 1995. And because you're still holding on to it, it's just compiling and you wonder why you're stressed. Let's let that go. Forgive. Forgive the situation. Forgive yourself. Forgive the other person and move on. Forgiveness does not mean that you have to agree or that they were right. Just like with understanding their perspective. It doesn't mean that you agree. It just means like, you know what? I'm not carrying that. That's not mine. I'm not carrying it. I got my own stuff. And this is going to help us to effectively be able to handle conflict resolution, because if I forgave, then I'm not bringing that to the conflict. I'm not bringing that issue. I'm not bringing all that baggage. I'm not bringing all those things that trigger me into this conflict. And we do that. We say, okay, this is a whole different conflict, whole different person, whole different situation. But because of all those things that are past experience and stuff, we bring all of those ideals into this conflict, and it has nothing to do with it. And the thing that could have been resolved just like that, now it's years past and nothing is resolved. Forgive. Get it off your back. Own it. Conflict cannot continue without your participation, whether it's positive or negative. You got to be a part of it. When we're talking about the negative conflict, the gone too far conflict, I remember one time someone was arguing with my daughter, and their veins popping out, and and I just kind of like, don't engage. It feels like, they won. It feels like, they got something off on you and people are looking and you didn't say anything. But at the end of the day, some people are looking at that person like they're crazy. Why are they going off on this person? And that person is not doing anything to them. We got to take responsibility. Are we contributing to the conflict? Are we holding on to it? Are we letting it go? Let it go. Not I'm done. Remember, it's a difference. What's our motive in this conflict? What's your reason for being in it? Are you in it because you want to argue? Because you want to offer some options? Do you want to innovate? You want a good debate? You want to strengthen your conversation? What's the end goal? What do you want to gain from it? A healthy debate? Or just some bragging rights? I was right. They knew I was right. And everybody knew I was right. So I'm walking away and I'm right. And everybody else is like, we just went on and gave them what they wanted because we just didn't want to deal with it anymore. So let me give you a couple of strategies. I've given a couple throughout, but I'll give you these strategies. Practical. Sometimes people say, okay, Rika, that's all well and good. That sounds good. Yeah, but tell me what to do. I can't tell you what to do. I'm a different person than you. You're a different person than me. I can tell you what I might do, but without being in that situation at the time, I don't know if that's what I'll do. I might do something else. But again, we're just going to add to your toolbox. And the first thing is to not ignore the conflict. And by that, I mean, don't ignore that the conflict exists. Something's going on. I gave you the example about the former coworkers. The finance guy felt like something was going on, but, maybe if he had a conversation with the receiver and they talked about it, it could have been resolved a lot sooner. A lot of times I'm not saying nothing, but you might say it to somebody else, but not to the folks that are the partner in the conflict. Don't ignore that it exists. Check your motive. Am I tripping? Am I over here saying, what part of it is mine? What am I really trying to get out of this? What's my motive? Because it may not be me. When in doing this training, I'm saying you a lot. I'm talking about myself. I'm just trying to get it to where we're reflective about our part in a situation. Sometimes it's not your fault. Sometimes it's nothing that you have done. It may be the other person's issue. Since I am doing the training with you, I just want you to be able to look at yourself and say, in this situation, it may be them, but what part of it is me? And if it's not, cool, let it go. Strategize, have a conversation with the person, but always check your motive. Build on agreement. Again, there may be 7 things, 5 things you agree on, 2 things you don't. Why are you focusing on the 2 when you have 5 good things that you agree on? Or if it was in reverse, you have 2 good things you agree on and there's still 5 things on the table. Why do we agree on these things? I like on my earlier session, someone said, you know, I do a sandwich effect. Focus on a positive in the beginning. Let's get to some, you know, some things we don't agree on, and then close it out with something that we agree on. Focus on those agreements and then see it. That helps to build trust. It helps to build that community. It helps to build that collaboration. And then you work on that momentum. You use that momentum to help to get you through the finish line for the other conflicts that you're trying to resolve. Collaborate, compromise, consider the greater good, because you may not benefit, but maybe 100 other people will. But most importantly, stay open. You have to stay open. Stay open. Stay open to the possibility that this can be resolved. Stay open to the possibility that, you know, it may be something that I'm doing wrong. Stay open to the possibility that there are options, that I may need to compromise, collaborate, accommodate. Stay open. So for those who are still here, I know some folks are jumping off, and I apologize again. This went over, started late. But if you are in the mood to annotate, I would like for you to commit to at least one next step. Go to view options if you have not done this before. If you can't get into your annotate, then if you can't get into your annotate, use your chat feature and commit to what strategy you'll commit to using going forward. You may have multiple ones. You may have multiple ones. But these are tools. These are 6 tools that you can use when approaching conflict resolution. When trying to resolve conflict, you can acknowledge that there is a conflict. And again, this is an overview. I can do trainings that we can go into it and make it more situation specific with when we have fewer people. Awesome, awesome. I love that folks are saying to check my motive. We don't always look at ourselves and say, hey, let me see what it is that I'm really trying to get out of this thing. And does it affect everything else? Staying open is important. Thank you. Someone added to build on the agreement. That is huge. That's huge. If we can agree on something, let's take that momentum into getting some other things resolved. Awesome, 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 awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone. I am rounding third. I'm rounding third here. We are just about done. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Awesome. So, Debbie, if you want to dump that training evaluation in the chat, if you haven't already, I know some people have jumped off already.